another episode
of Kingdom Courtship Live.
Yes. And if this is your first time or your 50th time watching, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Kingdom Courtship. And if you do not know, now you know. We're having a great event coming up in February, February 15th.
Yep.
Called
It's More Than Love.
I want to tell people a little bit about this beautiful event.
It's going to be nice. It's going to be epic. It's going to be great. We are partnering with Sex Can Wait a While, Journey to the Ring.
That's right.
And Kingdom Courtship. So all three ministries are coming together. We're going to have different workshops or sessions. Pastor Saleem and I are going to do Marriage Rocks.
Marriage Rocks.
So what's awesome about this event is that if you are married, you can attend.
You should attend.
You should.
Yeah,
you really
absolutely.
should. You really should.
So where can they get more information?
It's right there on the screen.
Oh, that's so cool.
You didn't know that?
Did you put that there?
I did.
I see
Miracles.
that. Miracles.
Yep.
It's morethanlove.eventbrite.com.
Yes.
So make sure you get your tickets for that event. It's going to be a great time in the Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And so tonight we have another topic for you guys to discuss, and prayerfully it's a blessing to you, and it's something that I guess is controversial. Maybe it used to be more controversial than it is now, but it's still something that comes up a lot. So The Color of Love is the title, but we're really dealing with interracial relationships and particularly interracial romantic relationships and how those relationships factor in when it comes to love, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to courtship, and all of those things. And so I'll have a question. I always like to pose you to some questions. Have you ever dated or were involved with someone of another race?
I was.
You was? Oh, snap.
You. Don't you got like Indian and Chinese? And
not Indian.
You got a whole bunch of stuff.
Native American people, indigenous peoples to the United States.
Yeah, and then me, right? Look, I got Indian in my family.
She said me. God bless you. Oh my gracious.
You are hilarious.
Yeah. My family, my immediate family is predominantly African American as far as I know. But as I go further down in lineage, I definitely have native ancestry to the United States. And I don't use the term Indian because Indian indicates India. And people who are, that's just facts. Yeah, and people who live in India, whom I adore that nation. And we have some dear people to us that are from that nation.
Yes.
But
I can't get on.
But the reality is, indigenous to the United States, yes, I have some strong ancestry in that.
But to answer your question on a serious note, I have.
You have? Okay. So how was that? How was that experience?
For a little bit.
For a little bit?
I dated Puerto Rican, a white guy, and I think that's it.
Okay. That's it? You think?
Yeah.
So how was that experience? Like, it's
fine.
What was different about it? Was there anything different about it?
No.
Nothing? No difference.
What would make it different?
I don't know. I mean, different cultures, different ethnicities bring different things to the table. So
true. I mean, I was young though.
Okay.
No.
I
can't remember that far back, Saleem.
Oh, okay.
It's like high school.
Oh wow. Okay.
A long time ago.
Got you.
You always trying to make me go back.
No, I'm just wondering.
What did you?
Nope. Never had the opportunity.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, never. I don't think the desire was as strong to go after someone of a different race or ethnicity. But no, I never did. So
me, I think for me, like I always thought white boys were like cute.
Okay, let's find out. I'm light skinned. Did that count? No, maybe not.
Your feet.
My what?
Your feet.
I'm feet?
Your feet.
What about my feet?
Because they're like white. No, I'm just kidding.
You throwing lots of shade tonight.
All right. So,
that's because I ain't get no sun. Y'all see that? It's lack of sun in my life, right? So, yes, Team Light Skin is in the building. Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
All right.
But yeah, so I think that's a topic that it comes up a lot.
Somebody said they had to keep explaining their culture, and it got annoying.
Keep explaining their culture. Okay.
But he introduced me to a lot of different things too, which was cool.
Okay. So there can be many pros and many cons to dating someone of a different ethnicity, and even marrying somebody, because we advocate courtship. When you say I'm going to court someone of a different race or ethnicity, what you're saying is that's going to end in a marriage.
Right.
Whereas dating, as we all know, you're making appointments and you're just going out with different people and you're kind of seeing where this thing goes. So you can experience different cultures in that way. But I think a lot of times what happens, depending on how you're raised and depending on what you're raised to believe, many people look at the race or the ethnicity of their significant other as a principle of the relationship. Meaning if this person is not their own race or ethnicity, they cannot be in a relationship with them. Like it's not happening, right?
I think a lot of African Americans think like that. Actually, somebody just made a comment, which they said they see it with their dad, who's I guess his wife. I don't know what the wife is. I don't know what ethnicity she is, but they feel like that. Most African Americans feel like that other women don't have a backbone, like some, and that's what she said in here. Like she feels like that there's no backbone like a sister would. You hear that a lot.
Sister pretty tough. Sister's got a lot to say.
I've met some strong sisters that aren't black, but they're still my sisters. Okay. And they're strong.
Right.
I mean, I know when we speak of sister, what we're talking about.
It's got an AH on the end, right?
But my sisters.
my sisters are good, but my sisters. But this, I think there are a lot of stereotypes when it comes to, especially as African Americans. There's a lot of stereotypes that we have about other ethnicities as to why we can't date them. Mama would say if she can't use your comb, don't bring her home. You never heard that before, right? Can't use your comb, don't bring her home. Can't use your brush, don't bring it up. Come on, somebody. I mean, all types of. Rhyme. No, it doesn't. But I was just kind of flow. You just kind of just played me right there. But it's all good. But I think there's a lot of different things, especially I think. In the climate that we live in, and especially today being Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, race and ethnicity is such a big part of our society. It's actually at the foundation of our nation. The nation was founded by individuals who had a very negative disposition toward people who were different. Actually, when the nation was first founded, they wanted to try to enslave the natives of the land, right? But they realized that didn't work. Even some studies show that the Europeans that did come over tried to enslave poor Europeans, and that didn't work. And so eventually they decided to enslave those predominantly from the continent of Africa, and stealing literal people by the millions and bringing them to the United States of America.
I love that you're a historian.
So, I mean, I'm just summarizing. And so, we have a history in our nation that predominantly European and white descendants have looked at those of African descent as evil, as demonic, and that it's not of God to intermingle the races and things like that. But if you study the history of our country, there's been intermingling of the races since all the ethnicities came to the country. Because when people talk about who they want to sleep with, race is something that plays a small part in it, especially if you look at the history and how things went down in our nation,
Someone said it seems like every other race has less broken families than black community, and they treat their women better than blacks.
I think I can't necessarily. I think the operative is that it seems that way. Right. I think statistically, broken families in our country are pretty even across the board in the nation that we live in. There's such a disparity amongst African Americans because we're so disenfranchised, and we have systemic racism, and we have poverty, and we have a number of factors that play into our own brokenness.
But you know what? That's true because not to cut you off, but I was thinking how we kind of had this conversation the other day, living here in Souderton, like the things that we've seen,
Right.
that prior to moving to Souderton, living in Philly, and out, we had this like, oh, when you come to the county, everybody's like this, the great families, the money, the just, I don't know, your mind just gives them like all this credit, and then when you come, you're like, oh my gosh, does that really happen? Remember, like we were talking about some things that go on here, and it's like it actually shocks you because we think that it only happens in our communities, and it doesn't. It may not be as open or as out because we feel like a lot of it is not as evident or present, but it's there.
Because when you study statistics and you study divorce rates and you study poverty and you study murders and things like that, statistically, African Americans are maybe 11 to 12% of the entire United States population. And so a lot of the things that are happening, like divorce rate is like 55, 60% in the United States. So that's not all African Americans, because statistically it can't be, because we're such a small number of the population. So broken homes, divorce, abuse, mistreatment of women, abuse of women, all these things are happening across the racial divide, if you will. And so I think depending on what culture you find yourself in, you have more intimate knowledge and intimate understanding, versus if I was Hispanic, I would have a different viewpoint of what goes on in the Hispanic community versus what goes on in the African American community. But I think and kind of stick with the topic, as far as the color of love, from a biblical perspective, there's no such thing as race based on color. I think a lot of times, because of the United States, because of the country that we live in, and the invention of the races, the invention of the Negro race and the Caucasian race, and these things were invented, socially constructed by those who studied sociology at the time, but those things had no scientific backing, no foundation to say that one race is different.
Listen to this question. How do we address the self-hatred, specifically of African Americans and Africans, that's often linked to dating, marrying outside of one's ethnicity?
Yeah, I think to address that, in my honest opinion, helping people understand that every human is created in the image of God. And so if we as African Americans understand that our value and our worth is intrinsic to who we are because of who we were created in the image of, then that will supersede any perspective that another race or ethnicity has on us. And I think it only takes the transforming work of God to really help individuals who've been systematically oppressed for hundreds and hundreds of years fully rise above that mindset that makes it seem like, oh, okay, because I'm darker skinned, because, I have kinky hair, because I have a wider nose, because I have fuller lips, there's something wrong with me. Right. That's of Satan. That's not of God. And the beautiful part I love about, especially this time of year, with studying Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, studying our ancestors like Frederick Douglass and people like that, they fully understood that they were created in the image of God, hence their desire to fight for equal rights, to fight for justice, to make sure that our people would not be oppressed because of the color of our skin. And Martin Luther King said it's not even about the color of your skin, it's about the content of your character. So he fought diligently to make sure that those who were oppressed, no matter what race or ethnicity they fell under, would be viewed as children of God. Right. So I think that's where the foundation has to kind of be worked at. Right. Is your ideology and your worldview. Do you believe that you were created in the image of God? If you don't believe that, then you'll take on someone else's image of yourself. And you'll think that the white man's image of me is who I am, or the black man's image of me is who I am, and et cetera, et cetera.
You're doing good, so I'm going to keep moderating. Someone said, so someone also made a comment. They were saying that in the back of their mind, if they were to date someone of another ethnicity, that if that person were to become angry or upset with them, then they'd be called the N-word.
And that would probably bother them.
Oh, yeah, that's what they're saying.
Well, this is what I've seen growing up. I've seen men get upset with my mother and call her the B word. I've seen men get upset with my mother and call her all types of everything but the child
Yeah,
of
so
God.
why does that bother us more? That's
Well,
good.
there's a root with that word.
Well, absolutely.
Right. That African Americans believe that because that word has been used to oppress us, now we are the ones that should be able to own that word and use that word and utilize that word. I don't particularly care for the word. I don't use the word in any real context, right? And my wife knows, right?
If you say, "Why you cussing in my house?"
I'm like, "Why you cussing in my house?" Come on. But you know, and that's just my perspective. I don't beat black people up for using it or whatever, but I understand the root of it. I understand that's a real fear. The fear is that if as a black woman you date a white man and that white man gets angry, he calls you the N-word, right? Then you start seeing the heart of the individual, that they will be able to use that language against you. But I think anybody that calls you out of your name, anybody that seeks to defile you with their mouth, they're revealing who they are to you, whether they're white, black, or whatever. Now, there's a history with the N-word and it being used by white people, by Europeans to oppress us. There's a history with that. But at the same token, the word that someone uses to dehumanize you is a revelation of who they are as a person. So now you have a decision. You have a decision to make. But if you're evaluating people's character, then that's not a fear you have to live with. You know, of someone using that word who's of another race to dehumanize you. Right. It's my opinion. So, and we have more questions. Okay. All right. Yep. So as Christians, right? As Christians, we especially those of us who are Christians who are descendants of African kings and queens and part of descendants of the transatlantic slave movement and all of these things, we find ourselves in a very particular time in our history where there are people who call themselves trans race, if you will, beyond race, right? We're in a post-racial society, which I think is a lie, and I think it's an abomination. I don't think that's biblical, because the Bible, especially in Revelation, talks about tribes and tongues and nations coming together. The Bible doesn't speak about races in the sense of color. It speaks about the tribe that you're from. It speaks about the nation that you're from, representing and understanding that there's beauty in the diversity that exists within God's creation. And I think when people are of this mindset that because I'm of a certain race as far as my color or ethnicity is concerned, therefore I cannot, or it's not of God for me to love someone of a different race or a different ethnicity. And I think you uphold a narrative that the enemy wants, where he doesn't want people to love people based on the content of their character, based on the God that they serve.
You mean their color?
No. When you just
he don't want
he doesn't want us. He wants people to love and get in relationships with people only because of the color of their skin.
I see.
And if you go
you're not without even taking character into consideration.
Yes. You know, because for me, my allegiance is to Christ, and so you may be my brother in the sense that we have the same ethnicity, but the moment you deviate from upholding the standards of Jesus, then you go from friend to foe. And I think what happens a lot of times is we're so loyal, and a lot of it has to do with our history. We're so loyal to our race that we overlook the transgressions of some of the things our race has done against its own self, in the guise of, well, we just keeping it real. We want to, you know, is black power and black love, and a lot of these things are beautiful things to experience. But at the same token, we cannot, as Christians, we cannot put our race above our allegiance to Jesus. And when we start doing that, we find ourselves walking down slippery slopes that Jesus was not even concerned about. Jesus was concerned about the heart of people. And the reason why some people are like, well, the Jews were told not to marry the different races, right? Well, that word race is talking about ethnicity, and those ethnicities are really lined up with wrong religious beliefs. So the reason why they were told don't marry the Philistines, right? Not because they were a different color, it's because they worship different gods, right? That was what the crux of it was. Not that, you know, because if you go to Africa, you can go from South Africa to Ethiopia and find every Ethiopia, right? Every shade in the rainbow, right? Africa is one of the largest continents in the world. It's one of the most diverse continents in the world. Every nation, you could find people in Africa with blonde hair and blue eyes, and you can find people in Africa with chocolate skin and chocolate deep brown eyes and chocolate hair, right? You can find that in the continent of Africa. And so to base our love and our desire and our commitment and our desire to get to know people and to relate to people based on a skin color is extremely short-sighted. And for the Christian, it's not of God. It's not what God intended. It's not God's desire, you know. So I would encourage people, if you're struggling with, you know, getting in a relationship with someone of a different ethnicity, strictly because of the ethnicity, strictly because of the race, then you really have to do some soul searching. Because I especially talking to sisters, they be like, ain't no good men out there. What they're really saying, there are no good African American men in my age range that think like me, that look like me, that are like me, right? They haven't met every man. Your husband may be in China. He may be there, right? Your husband may be in Brazil.
We heard that this weekend on the mission field, how this couple ended up getting married and met on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't know who your husband or your wife is going to be, and you have no biblical grounds to say, well, I can only marry a black man, or I can only marry a white woman, or I can only marry a Puerto Rican woman, et cetera, right? There's no biblical grounds for that. If you're basing your decisions for relationships off of that, you're basing it off of a very legalistic, white supremacist ideology that created these races to divide. They didn't I want to say anthropologists, but that's not the right term. But the sociologists that created the races was not doing that based on science. They weren't doing that based on anything credible. They were doing that based on just what they saw, and they saw different races and assumed that, oh, this must be the Negroid population. This is the Caucasoid. This is the Mongols, whatever. They started creating these things, and people bought hook, line, and sinker, and we see it in our United States of America.
I'm over here like, okay.
So, but you know, it's just
okay. I didn't pass that class.
So
no, you're good. I'm like,
but you know, I think there's no biblical grounds for it. And some people say, what about the Tower of Babel?
What's up, Dante?
Tower of Babel said that they scattered the languages. Right? It said he scattered the languages. Then say he scattered the races. Right? So people who spoke the same language ended up going together. So you know, it's just important to know, and as Christians, understand we have to have biblical foundations for things, and not get caught up, you know, in other things. So
that's good.
You know, I would say at the end of the day, that God is more concerned about the person's God that you're with than the color of their skin. So do we have any? Somebody said, "Make me wish I
paid more attention in history." Oh wait, no. Now they don't want to hear that. That's so true. There are so many men and women out there, but we limit God based on preference. Then we have a video on preference.
And this is the thing for the Christian. The principle that matters more than anything is who's their God. Right. If you say, I want to be with this person, I want to go on a date with this person, who's their God? Right. I told a story on Sunday.
Somebody said you've been doing this since Rowan.
I'm telling you.
Educated black man.
You gotta study, man. I love being black. I thank God I'm black. Thank God I was born black. I thank God my wife is black. I love it.
No, I'm playing.
I think black love is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But at the same token, I think love of every race is a beautiful thing.
It is.
You know, I have cousins that are not black, right?
We do.
So for me, I have friends. Some of my closest friends, interracial relationships, people I work with, people that I love dearly, phenomenal marriages, right? One of my daughter's closest friends is white, so. For me, it's just important to really make sure I love people based on how God says I ought to love people. And not even as much as our church. Oh my goodness. This is the United Nations, United Colors of Benetton at our church. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wanted us to really fight for is the equality of all people. And so if there's any group oppressed, we ought to be fighting for their elevation. We ought to be fighting for their equality, right? And if there's a group of people that's privileged, right, and that has opportunities that are greater than those who are not, they should be fighting to make sure the oppressed get liberated. So that's extremely, extremely important. Right?
Awesome.
All right. So is there anything else for the good of the order? I think we caught everybody.
We
appreciate you guys. Shout out to YouTube. Everybody watching on YouTube. Love you guys. God bless you. Everybody watching on Facebook. Got people few comments on YouTube. That's a blessing.
Okay. Any questions?
Any questions?
No.
Any questions? No questions?
Mm-mm.
All right.
None. So we did have a question about yes. So we did have a question about the event.
It's more than love. .eventbrite.com. Come on,
someone asked about the attire.
Upscale.
I was going to say that.
Oh, go ahead,
You've been talking right now. No, I'm
you're right. I have
no, I'm just messing with you. No,
my mouth is dry.
No, you were really, really good. You know your stuff. Amen. Yes, it's going to be upscale.
Give us some suggestions. What should they wear?
I mean, don't come with a gown.
Yeah, you don't need to wear a gown. Like, it's not formal. A ball. It's not a black tie affair.
What is upscale?
Upscale is like a suit, right? You can wear a suit. No jeans. I tell you what not to wear.
Jeans.
No jeans. No sneakers.
Blazers.
Blazers are good. You know, fellas, bow tie. What about the bow tie? Suspenders. Right? It's going to be nice.
Some heels.
And I'm praying for all you fellas out there. Bring a nice young lady with you or bring your brother with you so you can meet a nice young lady that night. It's a beautiful thing to meet people.
Yes,
right?
And married people, get your ticket.
Yes, married folk, you ain't been on a date in a while.
Date night.
Take your boo. Surprise them. Say, look, we going somewhere fancy. Got some phenomenal food.
We got a couple watching right now.
It's going to be awesome. So y'all need to get your tickets. Don't be sleeping. Because like I said, I love you guys, but if you show up and there's no tickets, what you want me to do? I can't do that. Nothing I can do. And
don't be waiting for us to give out tickets because y'all know I like giving stuff away.
Well, it's a joint event, so we got to get group consensus to be giving away tickets.
No, not necessarily because I could buy it with my own money.
That's true. We could sponsor some people.
We could.
Well, don't worry about the sponsorship. Get your tickets.
Get your
tickets.
Because it's only $35?
It's $35 now. I think it's still on sale.
Until when?
I don't know. You might have missed it.
Oh, I hope you didn't miss it.
I hope you ain't miss it.
Because prices go up.
Prices
you know when you don't get it.
It's $40. That's the regular admission fee.
$5.
Say that $5. Yeah. You know, put that towards your tie or something. You know.
Okay.
All right, so I think that's it. Is that everything? All
right.
Good. Don't forget, guys, there's a better biblical way to wear a courtship. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter.
And don't forget, single ladies.
Yes. What's going on Saturday?
Yes, on Saturday, I will be at Bethel Northeast with Lady Shantae Baldwin.
What's it called?
Coffee and Tea with Lady B.
Hey, man, come on now. And me. Hey, my God.
I added the me part.
Yes.
Yes, so we are definitely looking forward to
that.
What time? 9 to 11 a.m.
9 to 11 a.m.
Yes.
On Saturday. Just ladies?
Just ladies. No.
Kids?
I was about to say, don't be trying to dress like one of the ladies. Yes, just no kids.
No kids?
No kids.
Okay. What are the fellas doing? Fellas, we doing anything?
Nope. So maybe they could join you at your event. But I hope you guys can join us. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have a great time.
I'll let your boy. All
Somebody says tax season price increase.
Tax season.
Not yet. Wait, you got till 31st to get your stuff.
All right. Well, we love you guys. And
so February 9th.
So February 9th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We have until the 9th.
For what?
To get the discounted price.
That long?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
I don't know. That's what somebody said. I don't know.
I would get them now because when that $40 hit, God bless you. All right.
All right, guys. That's it. Yeah, we love you.